was just gonna post this and then drop like a quick little comment about my thoughts, but I haven't made a video in a while, and I was like, this moment right here, it's when you sit back and look, I'll kind of explain it. This was the moment that historians will look back on and say, this is why America is now communist. And when you just sit back and you look at like how pretty much almost 20 years since that moment, oh 07, oh 08, has gone, and all the events that happened, like they literally coincide with this being the domino. Like this was the moment. And you know, first off, yes, we built them up because we needed capital. We needed to be liquid, to bail out the banks, and we needed money in the system. And I agree 110% with Bernanke, who was the Fed chair at the time, who, yeah, sure, maybe he was the right person to lead because he got his thesis written on the Great Depression. I mean, he was literally a Great Depression expert, right? Or as close as you could, get to. And when he studied it, yeah, just in, and we all know what happened with the Great Depression, soup lines and bread lines and mass unemployment. And just, it was painted as, super horrific and very, very hard. And it took us almost 20 to 30 years, man, to get out of it. And then we had a lot of tomfoolery and, I don't even want to get into the whole gold standard and all, but like that was a bad period, right? All the other periods, we had a bunch of minor recessions, and we've recovered. And so when you're studying that from his perspective, he's like, oh, yes, liquidity. That is the issue. If the banks were able to continue to lend, if the financial system kept moving along, we would recover. And you know what? No problem with any of that. I totally agree. But nobody asked who gets the bailout, who gets the money. It was just already predetermined that Wall Street and the rich will get it. I seen it firsthand. It was 09 when I was graduating. I seen in my local community, people lose their homes. Friends of mine, really, really close friends of mine, and how bad it tore them up and like how much of a rough time they went through. And, they made it seem like every single person that took a house out wasn't going to be able to afford it. And that wasn't the case. What really happened is interest rates spiked because those loans were unsecured, right? And so your payment went from what was affordable, at the time, $1,000, $1,200. My God, that made sense. Even at that time, because back then rent was only, hey, $400 more. Instead of paying rent, I could own my home, right? It made sense. They didn't explain, hey, if rates suddenly spike, this payment's going to go from 12 to freaking 2,400, which at that time was like, oh my God, how, right? And the thing that trips me up, and the reason why I am so furious about this moment in time, especially now that I'm older and I could really go back and be like, what the hell did they just do to us, was why didn't anybody think about the American people? Why didn't they think about the person that was in that home and just for a moment thought, what's going to happen when this person loses the home and the family has to separate and they have to file bankrupt and all this stuff, right? And why am I saying that? I'm not against liquidity in the system, but the people should have got the bailout. At the end of the day, it's the people's taxes that are funding it. It's the people's money that goes to Treasury when you pay tax, when all the millions of Americans pay tax. We give it to here you go, Treasury. You spend it on our behalf. And what did we get? We still got broken roads. We still got broken infrastructure, right? Forget about the wars, but at that very moment, it was our money. The people should have been the ones that got bailed out, not the system. The system was there to serve the people all along. And that liquidity would have still made it back to the proper banks, because the federal government, because how quickly did they pass laws, right? When something is serious, everybody's all in it, right? Congress, like, the Patriot Act, right? When 9/11 happened, how quickly were we like, you're not American if you don't vote yes on giving away all your civil. We got that shit done. And we got smart people there. We got smart people in the Fed. To make no mistake about it, they are smart when it comes to numbers and understanding and everything. And so are politicians, man. Politicians are too. And it's because the whole system was tied and has still been tied to Wall Street because they're the ones that write the biggest checks. Unfortunately, we don't donate. But what I mean by the people would have got it back is the government could have made a law that said, hey, yeah, we're going to bail you guys out 100 billion, 200 billion, whatever it's going to take. It'll be on the people's dime through the Treasury. We'll print it. We'll do it. But banks, you're going to have to go back to every bad loan that you wrote, and you're going to sign that debt over to the government. And the government is only going to charge 3%. Because that's where we ended up anyways, right? With quantitative easing, right? After all of that happened, when we bailed them out to kind of get because then the idea is, hey, grow the economy, collect more tax, and then pay back, right? We still got 3% rates. We had them during COVID too, right? So at that time, if the structure would have been set up that way, what would have happened? How would the world change? People would have had a home ownership. They would have maintained it. They would have had a little piece. Jesus, not everybody wants to make $1 million. And, some people majority of people just want a little piece of America they could call their own to raise their family and watch their kids grow, Damn, that's America. Where you actually own something. And you're safe and you're protected, and nobody's going to come and steal your property. No one's going to harass you. No gangs are going to come by and be like, hey, because the government's the biggest gang. But, that's why, my parents left India. That's why a lot of immigrants leave, is just those that right there, that. Own the home. It's mine. I have a little piece. I do care what happens in this country. You're going to do what? You're going to teach what? But you disenfranchise all those people. You let them scramble. Now go survival mode. I got to survive. I got to get my job back. Maybe you still lost your job, or I got to find an apartment to rent. And now, my credit's shot. I'm worried about that. I got family stress. Who cares about the country? Who cares what's going on? I wouldn't care what's going on at that time. My life is under so much stress and pressure that I can't think about anybody else. That's so selfish of me to think about anything else other than my family at that moment, right? And that's why you saw all the policies that take place, and you saw this anger. And this anger was like, we want to get back. We know we got ripped off. We can't explain it. I'm a regular guy. I just go to work. I don't know about this politics, this financial markets. All I know is there was a bailout and some rich dudes got everything, and I got screwed out of my house, right? In comes Trump. He's just a big F you to the system. And then we saw the Biden. It was a retaliation to that. They sprinkled in racism everywhere to just continue to keep us distracted, so we don't know how badly we got robbed and taken advantage of, and our country got destroyed while a handful of people got rich and the rest of us were left with nothing. And then that's where we are today, because this problem is still bubbling, it's still manifesting. And pray to God, AI, we get another .com boom, which look like we're happening, that will allow us to grow out of this, and it will continue to prolong what's left of America. But the only chance we would ever have is to make housing affordable again, to get people a little piece of America. You take that away, it's all done. And I don't think that's going to happen. That's why I'm not holding my breath. I believe we're headed down a communist path, and that's a direct result. I don't own anything anyways. Why do I care? Why does it matter? Now, if I own a little piece of America, by golly, I care. Hell yeah, I care. Wait, what? You're gonna do what? You're gonna this house belongs to everyone? No, this house don't belong to everybody. It belongs to me. I worked for it. I got it. I own it. I care. We're not going the communist route. I don't have a house. I don't have a stake. I'm screwed with student loan debt. I'm already playing a game that I lose. I might as well hit restart. I mean, come on. How many times have you been playing the video game and you're just getting whooped? You're getting spanked, baby. You're getting spanked. You're like, you know what? Restart. Right? It's the logical thing to do. And that's a place you would not want our citizens to be. We shouldn't want to restart America. But if it's not working, what do you expect? I hope all that made sense. I mean, if you disagree, let me know in the comments. But I'm just using logic and just like, where are we? How do we get here? How do I feel about everything? How do the people around me feel? People that got money, people that don't got money that I talk to. And what's happened? It's not going to be full blown. It's never going to be. They're not going to come out and say we're communist, right? They might. They're getting really bold, but it's going to start that way. And I don't know. I don't know if it's in paper and practice. This sounds great, but if you've done any type of task in your life, if you've ever been a manager of something, if you ever had started a company or even a small little business, or hell, even if you did a garage sale, you'll know that like execution is fucking hard. It's not easy. Somebody actually has to do the work and stay honest. And that's the problem with communism, that in the beginning it's all great and all that, but then you get people that are chosen to just do a task or do a spot. They're not going to do a good job, and the money's still going to get taken by the party members, you know. So the only thing is, it's just a big fu from the majority of America to the system. But it's like, it's not the system, it's been the people that have been running the system. And capitalism is the only thing that gives a chance for the realness to come. Like if you, because capital allocation, that's how it's going to work, right? If you're doing something right and you're bringing it to market and the people are enjoying it, you're going to continue to get awarded. If you're doing something bad and no one wants to buy it, you don't get capital, right? Like that's the basic premise. And that's why I believe in that system. And the more scarier part, finances are one thing, and it's great, you need to make money, but the scary part for me is when you hit restart, you also get to restart what America is. It's not just like a restart on the financial system, everyone goes to zero. It's like, you know what? Maybe we all don't need to, speak freely. Maybe you don't need that gun. Maybe the police should be able to search where they need to for your protection, right? Constitution's gone. And that's the flip side of it. I hope in the next decade or so that we get a shakeup in leadership, because all these leaders are old. So that the new people coming in that actually care about America, focus on America, and realize that you know home ownership is important. And all this content we're seeing about be a forever renter and like getting us to renting is never going to be the same as owning, man. You want people to have a piece, to have equity. Otherwise, no one's going to care. You know. Yeah. Anyways, hope all that made sense. And I don't know. I'll see you next time whenever I decide to post. Peace.